Why are many people today experiencing an existential crisis, a disconnection of each other in relationships, and also just a sense of purposelessness? We're watching a video today from a channel, Alex Way, and he's going to discuss some of the new issues that Gen Z faces, but even people like the millennials and beyond that are still struggling if they're single or trying to find connection with others in today's world.
In the past, most people worked normal jobs and lived normal lives, but they had something to live for, something deeper, a family, a relationship, neighbors and friends around you, a community, a nice little house in the suburbs with the white picket fence and all that. It wasn't necessarily glamorous, but it gave life structure and it gave the average person something to live for and something that they could realistically achieve within their lifetimes. But now, that vision is practically a fantasy. It's very hard to be just a normal person in today's world and succeed and be happy. Everything has changed. For example, with the prices nowadays, home ownership is out of reach for most young people unless you inherit wealth or get incredibly lucky. Starting a family feels like an impossible task when you're living alone or with roommates and rent takes up half your paycheck. Even if you do try your best to live the American dream of that previous era while working a normal job, it would cost so much to raise just one kid, let alone three or four like many families used to have in previous generations.
Except if you're on welfare. I know lots of single mothers specifically, maybe not just single, maybe couples that have lots of kids and make under the poverty line of income. It's like you almost get rewarded for having kids and being what I would deem a little irresponsible, because if you can't even care for your first child, let alone yourselves, why are you introducing more life into a world that's already filled with suffering and filled with, like, I'm not saying poor people shouldn't have kids, but maybe just one. If you can take care of yourselves first, I can give that child a decent quality of life and a chance at a future. Because, Jesus, I feel so many parents just pop them out because they get that paycheck. More food stamp money.
But even dating, which is the starting point to get to all of that, has completely fundamentally changed. Back then it was simple. People dated within their communities. There were natural opportunities to meet people through things like friends, school, church, or just hanging around the neighborhood when people went outside and cities were walkable. But now, everything is digital. You see those graphs about how online dating has just skyrocketed in recent years. Relationships, something that used to be deeply meaningful to us as people, it's just been turned into a fucked up game. Swiping, ghosting, algorithms, ELO scores. What the fuck, dude? It's harder than ever to find someone who wants to build a future together with you, let alone someone you connect with on a deeper level. And dating is extremely tough, especially if you're a young guy in this era. It just feels like you're playing a game that's stacked against you. Dating apps have basically ruined everything. Sure, they've made it more convenient, but they've also made it way more superficial. Your face and your height are what you get judged on, and if you don't look a certain way, you're practically invisible. You can be a kind, thoughtful, intelligent person, but if your photos don't scream 6 foot tall with a chiseled jawline, good luck. Good luck with that. And even if you do match with someone, the odds of it going anywhere meaningful are so slim. It seems like everyone's dating with 1 foot out the door already, and especially girls who have so many options on these dating apps.
That is the main issue today. I agree with them completely. And drop a comment below, any dudes watching, if you've had similar experiences with these apps, because like 99%, I don't know, 95% of everyone I've ever matched with or tried to hook up with, it's all transactional. They're just looking for free, easy, cheap dates. Even if I'm not going to say my height ever really did me much favors, but I also can understand, like, yeah, if you're shorter than the girl that's has all these, requirements before they even get to know your personality. We're overwhelmed with options today, with dating, with Netflix, with Amazon Prime, with everything, restaurants, banks, you name it. There's too many choices, and that's not always a bad thing. There needs to be competition against, like for banks example, I think is good to be competitive with rates and shit. But not relationships. Like back in my grandparents' day, you went to the county dance, right? Or you went to church, like you said, and you made commitments pretty early on, and you know, honored each other through your faith a lot of times, or just through the way you were raised back in the day. But now it's like we're not even raised much by our parents anymore. We're raised by these school systems, by our peers, our classmates, who are also being influenced by pop culture and social media and a lot of bad behaviors that just aren't censor. I don't want to censor people either. Like some kid, I mean, kids need some censorship honestly before they make more mature decisions. And that's why we're in the state we're in today, because we don't have the same values. And that's why he said many women today have one foot in, one foot out the door. Some men too. I'm trying to be fair. But what I typically find is it's a lot of times the man doing most of the sacrifice and giving up a lot of his life to appease hers or to build hers. So typically the man's thinking we and the woman's thinking me. Ladies, prove me wrong. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments, but unfortunately, that's why we're having a lot of videos like Alex Way has today with this loneliness epidemic, because the relationships are just so like shopping.
It's like trying to pick from a buffet. Everyone wants to keep their options open. Everyone wants to find the best person on paper instead of finding a person who's good enough and then trying to build the best relationship from that. So, long story short, we've gamified human connection, and in doing so, we've made it disposable. That's why more people are lonelier than ever, both guys and girls. That's why our mental health is worse than ever on a societal level. It's all just a system of endless short-term interactions. Cheap thrills, no depth, no commitment, just the next swipe. Everything is surface level, and it seems like we're losing the ability to connect with people in any real, lasting way. And part of it is because even the cultural messaging has shifted. A lot of people, but especially women nowadays, are encouraged to prioritize career and independence over everything else. Like, I want to be a boss babe. And that's fine if that's genuinely what you want to do. Like, no one's here to judge your life preferences. But if we're just being honest, it's led to a dynamic where relationships are seen as,
Yeah, relationships have shifted in the sense that, men used to kind of be needed in a certain way. And now women like to prove to themselves and to their peers, like, I'm powerful on my own. And there's nothing wrong with providing for yourself. I think it is credit worthy. If I were someone's husband that had a successful wife, yeah, I would be like motivating and encouraging her achievements and such, as long as she's also prioritizing our relationship as number one, even beyond and above work. Because like earlier he was saying, like, you're replaceable. Most people don't understand that. You can show a company loyalty for years and years and years and then get laid off like that, just like my uncle, both of them. Tyson right now just made a video recently about that, and thousands of people are getting laid off. Some have been there for decades. And it's sad when you're in a relationship and that other person prioritizes work and money overall, or like the respect or opinions of her boss or her peers over the people in her family or his family. Things aren't right. Things are not right today.
is optional, even burdensome. And again, while some people might enjoy that freedom, I feel like a lot of us are afraid to admit it, but on a deeper level, we're craving something more. And that gives rise to the loneliness epidemic, as everyone likes to call it. It's so ironic that we're the most connected generation in history, but also the loneliest. You see the studies about people who say they feel like they're chronically lonely, and the numbers are only going up. Social isolation is really like a public health crisis, but no one's talking about it because no one wants to admit their problems. Because I feel like people think that's embarrassing to admit, but just being real, most people that I know live alone, work alone, scroll alone, and just aren't in relationships either, at least not long term. Me and my friends spend way too much time sending each other reels on Instagram, but even though we're technically connected through our phones, it's not genuine. And in general, just through social media, we find ourselves watching other people live their lives while quietly wondering why ours feel so empty. But the truth is that everyone's feeling empty, it's not just you. Even the ones who post how glorious their lives are on their stories and Facebook pages. And again, the lack of third spaces is another reason. Most people's lives nowadays are just condensed to you work, you go home, you scroll or watch Netflix or some shit. Cities aren't really walkable. It seems like everyone's in their own little bubbles. There's not too many socially acceptable places where you can just talk to people or just hang out or meet someone new. Everyone seems isolated and atomized. And then you wonder, why does life feel so hollow?
Yeah, like the best options are, I recommend go to the bar, and I think that's terrible to get drunk. And not for everybody. Some people can be responsible and handle it to a degree, but many people make a lot of bad decisions, get in fights, cheat on people, whatever, when alcohol is involved in clubs. But there's not a lot of third spaces, like you said, to just meet and hang out and do a common interest activity. There's things like meetup and stuff if you're in a city sometimes, but a lot of those things require money and memberships, and it's like you got to find. It takes some effort to look and find, but even where I live currently, like this is a rural town, not a lot of options of things to do. And most people after work, if they're not working two jobs, they're going home watching Sports Center or the sports ball game and sitting on the couch eating food.
But even if everything does seem to work out for you on the surface, like you have a job, you have a partner, you're planning for the future, how do you afford everything? Housing prices, like I mentioned earlier, are going insane. The cost of food is rising. I show this picture all the time, but I've seen eggs that are selling for like $18 at my local grocery store. And all this time, wages are barely budging. It's not like wages are increasing so much to make up for it. Most young adults today just will never be able to match the buying power of their parents. And meanwhile, every aspect of life is being turned into a payment plan right in front of our eyes. You don't buy a car anymore, you lease it. You don't buy a service anymore, you have to subscribe to it. Even when I go on Amazon, which is supposed to be for like one-time purchases, I see all these options for like subscribe and save, where they deliver that thing like every few weeks or something. You're being conditioned to normalize renting out your life. But
Everything's a subscription, a never-ending cycle of payments. You were always in debt.
there's no alternative, so you keep on paying. The system is rigged for dependency, and those big companies just make more and more money off of you. It's not like I can just use a flip phone instead of an iPhone. And the looming threat of all this is that, especially in a country like America, a single emergency, like a medical bill, it can set you back months, even years in some cases. So for many people, the idea of saving up for wealth, it feels like a joke. No matter how well off you are, if you're not in like the 0.1% of earners, you're essentially in survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, it's hard to find actual joy and achieve your true potential in everything. No time for passion, no time for a dream, just time to go to work and scroll on social media.
I'm going to leave this kid's video in the description. I'm going to watch the rest of it after this. But yeah, the price is out of control. Everything's a subscription or a membership. And he said, if you're not part of the 1%, you're struggling to get by, essentially. That might be a bit of an overgeneralization because, if basically how I would put it, if your money isn't making money, you're in survival mode. You're one bad event away from bankruptcy or homelessness or living on your friend's couch if you have friends. But like you said, we're getting more and more isolated every year. We're only communicating through our phones. Even my best friends only get together a couple times a year. It's sad. And even my relationship feels very limited because of our screen time. And we're living these fantasy experiences through apps like TikTok and watching some people's best glimpses of their life and thinking that's their entire life. But I'm guilty too. It's like I'm sharing some of the best moments I've had when I'm out and about. And that's why sometimes I try to give you more real videos where I talk about some of the hardships and stress I've faced. Because life isn't all glam, and it's a struggle, and it's pain, and it's disappointment. And that's what this new generation is facing. I think it's, everyone's feeling that overwhelmed anxiety of going into the future. Like jobs are getting less, AI is taking over, relationships are getting fake. And I'll be honest, I've started talking to a few different AI chatbots like Grok and ChatGPT and Gemini and stuff, and I can see that in the next few years replacing some relationships. Because when you got no one to talk to, or you just feel like no one really gives a shit about you, you feel unneeded. We all want to live in a fantasy. We all want to have that delusion of happiness. Anyway, go subscribe. Check out the next video. Comment below. What do you think about modern relationships and finances?